One phone call, one unidentified man, and a forgotten lead in the disappearance of Claudia Lawrence. Few people talk about. A man who reportedly contacted police, then seemed to disappear from the story entirely. Who were he? And why has his call barely been discussed? Let me tell you about him. The disappearance of Claudia Lawrence remains one of Britain's most haunting, unsolved mysteries. She was a chef, a daughter, a woman who vanished seemingly without a trace in March 2009. And over the years, police investigated countless sightings, countless suspects, and countless theories. But hidden among the headlines is one detail that few people talk about. And that is a man who reportedly contacted police shortly after Claudia disappeared. Who were he? What did he know? And why has his call faded into the background of this already baffling case? Well, tonight we're looking at the overlooked details, the unanswered questions, and the mystery surrounding the man whose name rarely comes up when discussing the disappearance of Claudia Lawrence. Because sometimes the smallest lead becomes the one that nobody can explain. It's rarely mentioned and has never been fully explained. Welcome to 33 Sunday. Now, Peter Lawrence is Claudia's father, and Joan Lawrence is Claudia's mother. However, their marriage ended and they divorced quite some years before their daughter, Claudia, vanished. And through that, Peter and Joan, their relationship became fractious and they no longer communicated, even though they shared two daughters, Claudia and Ali. And when Claudia vanished, Peter failed to tell Joan, Claudia's mum. He phoned Claudia's sister Ali, who had to inform her mother Joan that her sister and her daughter was missing. And what I find really strange in this case is the fact that, knowing that Peter saw his daughter regularly, at least a few times a week, and his best friend Martin, the spokesman, also saw Claudia on a regular basis, why they chose to put out an image of Claudia with blonde hair when she went missing, knowing that Claudia had dark hair at the time. And it was only when a colleague at college told the police, but Claudia wasn't blonde, she was dark-haired, she was a dark brunette, was that image changed. Now, why would they have to do that? Because it was very misleading. People were looking for a blonde lady at the time. So I don't think it is strange to say, why would the father put out misleading information about his daughter? And it was strange that it took a colleague at work to inform missing persons about the truth of Claudia's look for him to be able to change that image. Now, the Nag's Head pub was Claudia's local pub, and it was just a few doors away on the same side of her home on Neworth Road. Now, this is where Claudia would meet not just her friends Jenking and Susie Cooper, but also her father, Peter Lawrence, on a regular basis, at least once or twice a week. Now, the police have looked at quite a few suspects, and that includes both men and women, with a hope to either charge or eliminate them from Claudia's disappearance. However, what they haven't done is they haven't looked outside Neworth area, which is where we're going to go now. Now, we did end up in Malton initially, where a vest that's believed to be Claudia's was found hidden behind an ancient tombstone, and it is now with North Yorkshire Police. And where that tombstone is in St Mary's Priory Church is merely 50 yards or so from the spokesman's home, Martin Dales. Martin lived in Old Malton until his death in 2022. Now this is Martin walking with Peter in the grounds of St Mary's Priory Church, where the vest was found in Old Malton. Now, the evening that Claudia was last seen, she was known to make calls on text to her mum and to her friends at the Nag's Head, and also a text to a friend who worked at Boots in Old Malton. Now, we don't know what the conversation was about with Claudia and this friend, apart from the fact that the friend told Claudia to be careful and not to walk to work in the morning. It was quite dangerous, but Claudia assured her that it'd be fine and she needs the exercise. Now, her surname is Holder, and now that name had not been mentioned before Claudia vanished on the 18th of March. And it has not been mentioned since either. Now, the name Holder is not a common name, so we were rather surprised when we heard that name mentioned when we did our walkabout in Slingsby. Slingsby's 6 miles to Malton, but 17 miles to Neworth Road, where Claudia lived. Slingsby is a lovely little village, and it's about 20 minutes just off the A64. Now, Slingsby is a beautiful village, very isolated, very rural, and plenty of copses scattered around. And as we were driving into Slingsby, I was drawn to a particular copse. Now, I asked my colleague to pull over because I felt drawn to this particular copse. And what you'd commonly think is, who's hung themselves in the woods? So I asked who'd hung themselves in the copse in Slingsby. And I asked this by typing into Google. And when I Googled that question, there was only one name that came up. And that name was Michael Bogg. Now, the name meant absolutely nothing to me at that time. And like I said, that name, Michael Bogg, it didn't impact on me whatsoever. But as I carried on reading, what made me sit up and shiver were what followed from that.